7 war tactics through time. We got 1. The ancient Greeks' death ray. 2. Human death catapults. 3. Suicide bomb dogs. 4. Charging burning pigs. 5. British teaching Nazi soldiers to leave the army. 6. Firebirds carrying the Mongols in war. And 7. Cats versus Egyptians war. The ancient Greeks' death ray. The Greek mathematician Archimedes is one good example that all geniuses are not equal. The man behind PI also built the death ray to defend against the enemy ships. In terms of design, it was a set of mirrors that concentrated sunlight towards one direction. It is similar to today's magnifying glasses, but hundreds of times larger. The result was a high concentration of sunlight, which heated the surfaces of ships, leading to a fire. Suicide bomb dogs. During World War II, the Soviet Union developed an unusual and tragic tactic known as anti-tank suicide dogs. This desperate measure was born out of the need to counter the advancing German tanks during the early stages of the conflict. As the Eastern Front of World War II unfolded, the Soviet Union found itself facing the formidable German panzer divisions. In this dire context, a desperate strategy emerged: the use of dogs trained as living, breathing anti-tank weapons. The Soviet military embarked on a heartbreaking training program for dogs to carry out suicidal missions against German tanks. These dogs were equipped with explosive devices strapped to their bodies. Britain teaching Nazi soldiers to leave the army. During World War II, the Allies, including the British, employed a powerful tool: psychological warfare. One intriguing aspect of this was the strategic dropping of propaganda leaflets over German-occupied territories. One bold move by the Allies was the inclusion of instructions on how German soldiers could surrender or leave the Nazi military. Imagine being a soldier on the receiving end, facing a conflict between loyalty to the regime and the promise of a different, perhaps safer future. These leaflets contained messages on how they could fake their way out of the army, birds carrying the Mongols in war. In the annals of history, the Mongols were known for their unparalleled mastery of the steppes. But what if I told you they had an even more extraordinary weapon in their conquest arsenal? Legend has it that the Mongols harnessed the power of the skies, utilizing an ancient art that involved the majestic birds of the Mongolian steppe. Nested birds and well-fed dogs always return to their master, said the great conqueror. He then ties the bird to a ball of wool, lights it, releases it. The hapless bird lets out a shriek before flying towards the city. Following that, the Mongol army sets 10,000 swallows on fire and releases them. Their deafening cries of pain filled the night sky as they rushed towards the city. The city burns. Burning pigs. Picture this. It's 52 BCE, and Julius Caesar is facing a formidable challenge at the siege of Alesia. The Gallic defenders are putting up a fierce resistance, so what does Caesar do? He unleashes the power of burning pigs. Now you might be wondering, did this tactic work? It turns out the Romans might have been onto something. The flaming pigs not only created pandemonium among the Gallic troops, but also sent shockwaves through their mighty war elephants. Imagine the chaos on the battlefield as these colossal creatures were startled by the unexpected cries of the burning pigs. And a lot of the warriors were trampled to death by the stampeding human death catapults. Back to the year 1346, when Mongols catapulted dead plague victims at their enemies. A long-standing conflict existed between the Genoese and the Tartar Mongols over the old city of Kaffa, a dispute that had been ongoing for some time. Kaffa, situated in what is now Ukraine, boasted a population of approximately 16,000 citizens and held strategic significance as a trade hub in Eastern Europe. As the Tartar-Mongol army laid siege to the city, a devastating turn of events occurred. The soldiers were struck by a rapidly spreading epidemic known as the Black Death. Faced with the grim reality of a dwindling army and the futility of the siege, the Tartar Mongols abandoned conventional warfare and opted for a macabre alternative. The gruesome tactic involved hurling what must have seemed like mountains of dead bodies into the city, rendering the Christians inside incapable of hiding, fleeing, or escaping the horrific onslaught. The consequences were dire. The rotting corpses not only tainted the air, but also poisoned the water supply. The war between cats and Egyptians. In the ancient Egyptian war council, Pharaoh Hatshepsut oversees a crucial meeting surrounded by generals and advisors, poring over maps and war plans for the impending Battle of Pelusium. The atmosphere is tense, and the need for strategic precision is paramount. General Amenemhat exudes confidence, assuring the pharaoh that their troops are well prepared and the plans are meticulous. A shift occurs as Imhotep, an uneasy advisor, enters Hatshepsut's tent at night. He reveals a peculiar development. The Persians have unleashed cats onto the battlefield. Hatshepsut, intrigued and concerned, learns that the Persians are exploiting the Egyptians' reverence for these sacred animals, counting on the soldiers' reluctance to harm them.